Look, the proposal we put before the Commonwealth Government is for a 10% production credit for the value adding of critical minerals. Of course, that would include nickel. That would make our industry 10% more competitive overnight, and really much beyond just the nickel industry, would also enable us to be more competitive and to attract greater investment to support getting new critical minerals value adding projects up.
Has the federal government been dragged to this position after BHPs announcement that it will write off billions of dollars worth of nickel assets, and it also warned thousands of local jobs now stand on the line?
Well, they've certainly taken some encouragement, and I think the nickel industry's current dire situation has certainly brought into clearer focus for Federal Treasury. And I think what's particularly important here is we have to realise that if we can't hold on to our existing value-adding industries, what chance do we really have of getting new industries up?
It sounds as though you would like something much more significant than just temporary support. How long should this lifeline last?
Well, in terms of the critical minerals projects, it needs to be open-ended. I mean, in reality, what's happening around the world is governments are making major market interventions and putting billions, if not trillions of dollars on the table. There's over 1,500 international interventions in the form of tax concessions, grants or royalty holidays that are making industries overseas much more competitive. And that's pulling investment away from Australia and to those countries. The most significant, of course, is the United States Inflation Reduction Act, with over $1 trillion of incentives on the table, and that's meaning that Australian projects competing with projects in the United States that have massive support from their government, while in Australia we're operating in the same conditions we always have.
And so has the government been just too slow to act in this area?
Look, I would have liked to see them moving much more quickly. I think there's a belief that because we have all the minerals, that we're guaranteed the opportunity to actually value add and build those value adding industries here in Australia. That's just not the case. Investment goes where it's likely to make the most return, and when governments are making these market interventions, Australia has no choice but to respond or remove itself from the field. And we want these industries. They're very high value. They build on our natural comparative advantages, and they provide opportunities for Australians long into the future. And of course, this is one of the fastest growing and what will soon be one of the biggest industries in the world as we move towards the electric vehicle revolution and indeed renewable technologies. We want a piece of this industry, and other countries are working very hard to take that away from Australia.
If we could speak specifically on the nickel sector at the moment, some analysts say miners are in this position because they simply got too greedy and, like other boom and bust cycles, should be prepared to wait it out without relying on government support. Do you have any sympathy for that view?
Well, I understand why some people will be sceptical about that, and nickel is certainly a tough industry, but what we're trying to do is survive the thin to get through to the thick. We know that nickel demand is going to increase something like 3 times over the next 10 years beyond 2030. We know nickel is an incredibly important component of lithium-ion batteries and indeed electric vehicles. So there's a market we're all trying to position ourselves so it can grow underneath us. The problem is, as those industries grow, they don't always grow in a linear fashion. Sometimes they grow quickly and then slow down, and we've got to be able to manage our way through the difficult periods so we can take advantage of when the price returns. So in this instance, it's quite different than previous boom and bust cycles. When it comes to critical minerals, we're all preparing for growth. We have to expect the market is not going to grow as we anticipate it to.
If the government were to announce production tax credits this week, how soon would we see mothballed nickel mines up and running again?
Well, it's a good question. I don't know you'd necessarily see those companies move back into production. Depend how they took a production tax credit. If it was related to value adding, only a small number of companies would actually receive it because most of those companies aren't currently value adding to their product. However, you're unlikely to see a change because it will require legislation, which will have to move to the federal parliament. So if they made the announcement this week or shortly after, they'd need to try and get that through for 1 July. And I think you'd then, but if they can signal that relief or support is on its way, that will make a big difference to those companies currently in operation and that they can get through to a period where that relief is coming.
Warren Pearce, thank you.
Thank you.